for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Okay, Doug, we're live.
Stuart, Yoshida, and the OokTown Podcast. Yay!
Hey, Doug. My co-host, Doug Brown. Aloha, patrons and listeners. This is Stuart Yoshida, host of the OokTown Podcast. Aloha, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We have quite a crowd here, and I'm just going to guess it's because of our guest. And but I'll take it. We'll take it. Before we introduce our esteemed guests here, we got a couple shout outs. We're going to let Doug give a shout out here. So take it away, Doug.
Shout out to my twin brother, Dave Brown. And hey, how's it going?
Hey, yeah. Didn't you guys start a podcast recently?
We did actually. August is going to be our initial breakout, but we're doing a. If you've ever been interested in watching a tangentially ukulele related podcast to movies, we are watching the not the AFI Top 100, but the Hollywood Reporter Top 100 movie listing, and rating it giving it 1 to 4 ukuleles, and rating them on their merit and whether or not they have ukuleles in them. So it's been super fun.
That'd be awesome. Do they have like 51st dates in there? Because that would be like a 4, I think. Does it? Actually, I can't remember how much ukulele they have.
But and it is not on the list. But we're doing stuff. But yes, it's going to be awesome.
All right, I can't wait for that one. I hope you will put the link in the show. Well, you don't have it published yet, so whenever you get that published, I will send that out. So awesome. So without further ado, I want to bring on Bernadette, YouTube ukulele instructor extraordinaire. Bernadette, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed. You have done an international ukulele festival. What made you want to do that? That was I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, it was a lot of work, but I wasn't the only one doing the work. So there's a member of our community. She found my channel through the 30-day Uke challenge, which is kind of the challenge that helped a lot of people find my channel.
Yeah.
And I received a letter from her roommate saying, hey, my roommate's doing your challenge, and she was in a really dark place. She's a Venezuelan refugee in Peru, and she hadn't played music since she was a little kid. She had done Suzuki method violin as like a 4-year-old or something.
Yeah.
And she said like the challenge is giving her new life. If you could somehow dedicate something to her, I know that would mean the world to her. And so one of the lessons that was coming up was the happy birthday one. And so when I teach the happy birthday lesson in the 30-day Uke challenge, I dedicated it to Mari, and that was that person. And so a friendship was born out of that dedication. And when the lockdowns hit last year, she had the idea of doing I think it was almost like 10 hours of ukulele concerts on Instagram. And so she lined up all of the artists, and each one had a set time, and it was just around the world. And I would have a live on my Instagram page and pass it off to the next person, and so on and so forth. And it was quite a production. And so when it came time to do a ukulele festival online, I knew that if anyone could do it, it'd be her, and she could help me plan it. So she was really the brains behind the whole operation. I just kind of helped the people come together for that, but she helped me organize everybody for that. And it was a really, really amazing experience. And there were hundreds of people who attended virtually. So it was really awesome.
That is awesome. Well, that just shows you the power of music and what it can do to help. That is really an inspiring story. And, it just goes to show what you can do and the people that can help out. That is awesome. It really takes a lot, if you've ever done any kind of online live show, it's just a lot of work, and having help like that is invaluable. So shout out to her. Yeah. And what was her name again?
Shout out to Mari.
Mari?
Mari. Yeah, and she's living in Peru now. But and then
Wow.
Terry Carter, who has another
Oh, yeah.
ukulele YouTube channel,
Yeah.
he said, "You're so organized. Like, how do you get organized?" And I was like, "I'm not organized." But at the time, Mari was helping me do the chord sheets, and I was about to take a different direction with my channel, and I had been paying her for her work. And so I said, well, I have this person named Mari who might be able to help you. And so he hired her on full time. She was able to quit
Wow.
this terrible job that she had with a publishing company that would pay like months late. There were months where she couldn't pay her rent. And Unicorns Rock, who's in the chat, Carrie is another person I met online who became one of my best friends. And so we were trying to help Mari pay the rent. So we'd be like, here's some money, pay your rent. And she'd be like, no, I got to pay you back. And so thankfully, Terry Carter hired Maria, and now she's working for him and not worrying about paying rent in Peru.
That is awesome.
Yeah,
Terry Carter, who has been on the OokTown podcast.
Yes.
Yeah,
that is small world.
So kind, yes.
Shout out to Terry. That is fantastic.
Yeah, wow, and he sent her like a terabyte of memory for her to do her work on.
Yeah.
He sent it to Peru. And that was like upon being hired. And she said, I can't believe that he would do that. Like nobody out here would trust you with this kind of equipment that is so expensive that I could just resell and make and use the money. Like she's like, are people this trusting? I'm like, no, Terry's really nice. But like this is how you should be treated as a professional. So yeah, it was So you like the pros, Terry Carter, shout out to him because he helped Maddie out a lot too.
Of course, there is a link to your YouTube channel, the 30-day challenge, your website, Terry's website, and the OokTown podcast that Terry was on in the show notes.
Cool, thank you.
And that is why Doug is such an invaluable resource to us. No, I mean, I used to have to try and gather all these links together, and I would probably lose more than half of them. So this, I think, since Doug has been doing that has been increased our cool factor exponentially to have all that. Well, those are great stories already. I think we can end this podcast just on those stories.
Thank you all for tuning in, and have a nice day.
No, those are just, I mean, those are already a couple of very inspiring stories. But let's get to these questions. So since the interview in Ukulele Magazine, that was way back in October 2019, which can seem like an eternity since everything that's been happening.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
So what's since your 30, I guess it was, did you already do your 30-day challenge? I believe so back then. Mm-hmm. What else have you been working on? Because it seems like you've been continuing to put out quite a bit of content.
Yeah, so I had started the YouTube channel as a New Year's resolution in 2017. At the time, I was working in Okinawa, Japan, and I knew that I was going to be leaving the island at some point, and it broke my heart that I wouldn't be able to continue teaching my students and seeing them develop ukulele skills. And I thought, like, this is the channel I need to start. I had always wanted to be a YouTuber. I don't know why. I'm pretty much an introvert. If you see me in a crowd, I like to be around people. Like, I like to be invited, but I don't want to be the one talking. So I don't know why I wanted a channel. It's like, it makes you talk. And I tried starting it back in 2015, 2016. And as soon as the camera went on, I thought, I'm not good enough for this. And I turned the camera off and I never tried again. Like,
wow.
I wanted to start a travel channel and then a living in Japan channel. I started both and didn't take off. And then thinking about my students and how I wasn't going to be able to see them and not be able to mentor them in their ukulele journey. That made me really sad. And I thought, well, if I start a channel, then they can watch it and they can continue playing. So the reasoning behind my why changed, it was no longer because I thought a YouTube channel was cool. It was because I really wanted these kids to continue playing ukulele. And so that's when the channel was born. But YouTube is really tricky. The algorithm is tricky, not easy to get found. And I started reading as many books and watching as many YouTube channels that taught you how to YouTube. And it seemed like everyone was saying make 10-minute long videos or more because the algorithm right now wants to put ads in front of people, and ads are shown to videos that are 10 minutes or longer. And you want to post once or twice a week. You want to let each video get a lot of views. And as I was gaining more subscribers, like, you know, it had gone in the first year from 0 to 5,000 in December, which to me felt like a multitude of people at the time.
Yeah.
The next year in January, I had 7,500. So to grow 2,500 over the winter break, I thought like, oh, a lot of people get ukuleles in the winter break. Of course they do. And I started thinking about what would be really good for people, because so many channels out there make tutorials, and it's here's the song, here's that song. But there wasn't anything out there that I knew of that would take someone from like, hey, this is your ukulele fresh out of the package, and if you don't have a musical background, you don't know how to tune yet, so here's how to guide you. And a lot of people can say, oh, well, this is a G. But if you don't know the musical alphabet, you don't know where G is. You don't know, like, am I tuning too far? If the strings are brand new and really, really loose and you're at a D, like, did you go up or down from there? And so I thought it would be really cool to create a sequenced curriculum that helps someone from like straight out of the box to Somewhere Over the Rainbow by Israel Kamakawiwa Ole. And so that idea kind of was in my brain, but it didn't match the narrative of you should only publish videos twice a week. So I was really like kind of wrestling with that for a few months. And then trying to get in shape, I saw this channel called Yoga with Adrienne. And she had a 30-day yoga challenge. And I started doing it. And I was thinking like, oh, a 30-day yoga challenge would be so cool. And so I told friends about it, which was a mistake, because he said like, YouTube's not going to promote daily content like that. And I was like, I don't care. I'm going to make it anyway. And so I planned it all. And my educational background, my master's degree is in curriculum and instruction. Like designing curriculum was what I was trying to do. And I was really good at it. Like, I will not say that I'm really good at many things. People watching me know, but one thing I'm really good at is I can design a curriculum really well. And so I put a lot of energy into designing the curriculum for the 30-day Uke challenge. And then when I started publishing it, it was getting about 1,000 views a day, which for my channel, going from like 100, 200 views a day to 1,000 was incredible. And so I knew there was a need there for that. And that's how the 30-day Uke challenge was born. And that's why Ukulele magazine interviewed me in 2019, the following year. I was advertising that I was going to do one again. But this time I was going through a lot of turmoil in my life. I went through a divorce and a change. I moved where I was living. And I just put one out there because I wanted to put another challenge out there. It wasn't well planned. It didn't do as well. So I was a little disappointed. But last year I did one that did really well. It was well planned. It did a lot better. It was called the 30-day Uke Song Challenge. And it was 15 songs in 30 days. The first song is Dreams by, I'm blanking on the name of the band, Stevie. What is the name of the band? Dreams, like the super viral song.
Oh, Fleetwood Mac?
Fleetwood Mac, thank you. Dreams by Fleetwood Mac, because it's a 2-chord song. And by the 15th song, we're playing Something by George Harrison, which has like 12 chords. So that was last year's challenge, and it did so much better. Thank you, Fleetwood Mac. I see it in the chat now. And so I'm already starting to plan this year's challenge. It's now become a September tradition that we do a 30-day Uke challenge of some type.
Well, that is a great testament to just working at it and finding your niche, finding your why. I think, there, by the way, there's all kinds of cool things in there that you mentioned, like you were teaching kids in Okinawa. So yeah, is that the northernmost island? I should know, but yeah. My ancestry is Japanese. So yeah. But that's cool. So you started off teaching kids there, and that was your why, is that you go and you tried different things, but until you found a good reason, then it took off. And probably no one would know that you're an introvert now. They probably think, because you're putting yourself out there. So that is amazing. So now you're doing 30-day challenges kind of around a theme. It seems like,
Mhm.
the songs. That's awesome.
Mhm.
The curriculum part I love because didn't Kimo Hussey, wasn't he talking about like curriculum and standardizing?
Yep.
And so, and there are some people out there already that you've probably heard of James Hill, and he's
Mhm.
done so much on curriculum too.
Mhm.
So that I think as much as we can create structure around it, that
Mhm.
helps out so much.
And I
Wow.
think people like knowing, like, where is this headed? It's gonna take me somewhere.
Right.
And one of the 7 habits of highly effective people, like the book by Stephen Covey, talks
Yes.
about beginning with the end in mind. And so when I was designing that first 30-day Uke challenge, I knew that I wanted to end with Somewhere Over the Rainbow by Brother Is. Like, I
Nice.
had that in mind. And so when I designed the second one, I didn't have that. I was just more like, I need to keep something going on September.
Right,
I'm
right,
glad I
right.
did it because it was a learning experience. I'm like, okay, I'm never doing that again. Like,
Right. Yeah.
planning
There you go.
is
Try something.
important. Yeah. Yeah. And so this year I've already started planning and I'm really excited.
Nice. Yeah. Start with the end in mind. That's a really
Mhm.
powerful concept and a perfect way to end somewhere over the rainbow, right? You just
Mhm.
for some reason that just sounds perfect.
Mhm.
So you've already mentioned what you're doing. Oh, you also did like a huge strum along with some of your subscribers. That was a cool
Yeah.
idea too. That must have been a lot of work. Did you put the video
Yeah.
together yourself?
Yeah. So there's 2 strum-alongs. One of them was like a live festival, and then another one was a video. I don't know which one you're referring to.
It was, I believe, The Lion Sleeps Tonight, and
Okay.
they had I'm sure you
Yeah.
did the recording and put it all together because there's no way you can do that live.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so if
good,
you
but
were a
as
part of
Stuart says,
that,
it sounds like a box of ukuleles falling down the stairs, I think is what his how he describes it when you try and do all that live over Zoom. So go ahead. I'm
oh
sorry.
yeah, yeah, definitely. For the people watching on the live chat, if you were a part of that video, please comment some little lions because I'd like to see who was there. So I don't know if you've seen the ukulele orchestra, the Los Hermanos Ukulele Orchestra.
No, Los
Their
Hermanos.
group, yeah, they're a group
Oh,
from Argentina, I believe. They're in Argentina, and they have
wow.
so many members, and one of the members writes the arrangements and they put it all together and they sound amazing. And so I thought it would be so cool to put together some type of ukulele orchestra of our own. And
Nice.
so I have a background in playing saxophone. That's like my main
Yes, I saw
instrument.
that, which is interesting, going from a melodic, just a melodic instrument to one that's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
does everything.
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about interesting, going from an engineer to making ukulele podcast is interesting too.
Are
Stuart,
you just
your background.
yeah, wait a minute. I didn't know you knew that. But yeah, that's okay, sure. But that's besides the point.
Yeah, so I played this song Libertango by Astor Piazzolla, and I played that song on saxophone, and I thought it would be so cool to play it on ukulele, and I saw that
Mhm.
someone had made an arrangement online.
Oh
This was
wow.
like 4 years ago, maybe longer. And this guy's name was Profesor de Ukelele. And I was like, oh, this
Nice.
is cool. And
Professor
so,
Ukulele. Yeah.
yes. And I started watching a few of his videos and I thought, he's so cool. And so I left a comment and he responded. And I was like, oh my gosh, he noticed me. And so a friendship developed there. And now he writes all of my chord melody arrangements because I do not have
What?
any talent on chord melody. And he lives in Argentina. He's from Colombia. He lives in Argentina. His wife, I think, is from Argentina. And he writes the chord melody arrangements and he attends my chord melody classes. So I try to teach to the best that I can. But if there's anything that like I'm saying incorrectly or that could be clarified, he's there and he jumps in.
Nice.
And so I had said, like, hey, can we do something like the ukulele orchestra? And he put together the Lion Sleeps Tonight arrangement. And since he does video editing as well, he has a YouTube channel. I'm like, can you do the video editing as well? And he's like, yeah, like I can do that. And I'm like, okay, how are you going to do it? And he's like, well, I've got the main track. And what I'm going to do is for the people who recorded that have really clean audio, I'll add those as layers. And for the people who don't have clean audio, I won't use that audio. I'll use just the video. Everything will line up anyway. And I was like, ooh, that's a great idea. Smart.
That is.
Yeah. Yeah, and so there's a lot of bikinis in the chat because we do live streams every Monday and everyone has their own emoji. And so the professor's emoji is the bikini.
Professor is a bikini emoji. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there is a link to his YouTube channel in the show notes.
Thank you, Doug.
All right. Well, that's wow. You know, that the editing when you have to put together all those things, I've done that before with like a choir, and it takes a lot of work to line them up. And this was only like 8 voices, right? With 8 voices plus a organ. And that is cool that he did that for you. But chord melody is an art in itself, and I do, yeah, you can get into that too. One of my students I taught, she asked, I've told this story before, so sorry about the rerun, but one of my students asked about chord melody, and I hadn't fully developed any courses on that. I go, yeah, I can teach that. So I started learning it really quickly, taught it to her. A couple years later, the punchline is she sent me some chord melody arrangements of Linus and Lucy that just blew me away. I was like, oh my gosh, that is awesome. So that's another point too, is do you have those students where they come back to you and they just, you just go, oh man, I'm so, well, one of them already, you've already told me like a couple stories, but like, that student in Argentina who all of a sudden just glommed onto this and helped you with amazing things like the ukulele festival and things like that. But anyway, other stories like that you want to share?
Mari is here. Mari, the one that I mentioned, is
awesome
right now. Yeah.
Hola, welcome.
Yeah, Mari was a huge help, and Prof was a huge help. I think that like once I let go of trying to, I was embarrassed to say that I wasn't as good at ukulele player as like the other channels that were really big at the time, which was the Ukulele Teacher, John, Cynthia Lynn, Tyler from 10 Times Pro, and the other kind of big channel at the time was also Vasco from Ukulele Cheats. Like my level was nowhere near theirs, and I'm not doing it to be like self-deprecating or to look for compliments. I just knew where I was level-wise was not where they were, and that made me really self-conscious. And I had put this barrier in my mind that I would have like a glass ceiling that I would reach, and it wouldn't go beyond that. And so once I let go of that and I started reaching out to Mari for helping me with the chord sheets and to Profe helping out with chord melody, then it was limitless. Like it didn't, I had no idea where it could go because now I had people supporting me, and it's gone beyond that. Now, so many of the people here on the chat are moderators on my live stream. So they make sure that the live stream is always friendly and safe. And then I've now hired on Kiara, who organizes every piece of content that I make for patrons into a spreadsheet, and it's categorized by like ukulele festivals and courses and live streams and printables. And so I don't have to do all of it by myself anymore. And I don't have to feel self-conscious like, oh, I can't do that. Like if I can't do that, I just find people who have the talent to do so and they step in.
Yeah, really great idea and great point. And by the way, even the ukulele teacher, his Achilles heel, if you want to call it that, is he admits he doesn't sing that well, but he does it anyway, and it's so genuine, and you don't really, I don't really notice it that much, but he just took that as his, all right, this isn't what I do very well, but I'm going to do it anyway. And it worked out great. And that's awesome that you how you're doing that for yourself by just you can, if you're not that great at it, you can get someone else to help out, and that is so good.
One of the things about the Denver Uke community was we used to use Yahoo groups as our kind of way to get together and share files and things. And one day at lunch, we were because we go to a cool kids lunch where the way that you become a cool kid is you come to lunch with us. So if anybody ever is in Denver on a Denver Uke Community Day, that's the secret. But at lunch, I was talking about how it'd be really great to have some place that wasn't the Yahoo structure was a little weird. The next day, one of the guys at the table put together the Den Uke site, and it's been up for 10 years now, and really useful and really great. So having using the talents of the people that are around is a real key, I think, to having successful get-togethers and it's awesome.
Power of the network. Although I think Bernadette's network is probably the most extensive I've seen. And Doug, that really fits. That's a really good one. Wow,
that's the eyelashes.
It is very realistic. Holy smokes!
I don't know what you're talking about, but yeah. But there's a link to that website in the show notes.
Thank you.
Let's see. All right, let's see this one. What are some of the most common obstacles you found for students, the new students? We'll start there, and then we'll go.
It's the mind.
The mind.
The mind. Yeah. The mind is the most common obstacle.
You're gonna go like full Dune and say fear is the enemy, and
actually, I think a mental plague affecting a lot of people right now, and I don't know if it's because my community is 60 to 70% female, or if it's something general that other people in my community find, but this imposter syndrome is really affecting a lot of people in my community. And so I talked about it in the 10 reasons why people quit ukulele video that I made. One of them, and that affects me, was imposter syndrome. And I mentioned a little bit earlier that I knew that I wasn't on the same level as the other people playing ukulele. And so there was the voice in my head telling me to quit the channel because there were other people that were out there making it better.
Right.
But then what I would do is I would think of individual people who always comment, and I'm like, wait, that person would be bummed if I left, and that other person would be bummed if I left. So that's been my own personal challenge. I just want to give a shout out real quick to Yuta, who's here. Yuta has also been really active in the Ukelandia Facebook group that I made a Ukelandia Facebook group as a way to connect with people. And I thought it was going to be for my channel, but it ended up taking off as a community where people of any level, both singing and ukulele playing, could post and not be judged. And if anybody was nasty, we just remove them from the group. It wasn't like a warning, like we don't need that negative energy. And so it became a group that so many people of all levels all of a sudden felt encouraged to upload a video, even if they were tone deaf or had no rhythm at all. Like they were uploading, and the comments were always like, awesome, like thank you for sharing. And it was also positive. And
Yes.
he does here, he has helped edit collaborations that the group does. And so now I don't share anything about my channel on there. I'm just like, I'm hands off, and it's just taken off as a ukulele community where people can post. So I just want to give a thank you to Yuta. But a challenge that a lot of people are facing, I would say, is that imposter syndrome, feeling like, oh, I tried playing music a long time ago on piano and failed or gave up, or like I tried picking up the guitar and it was painful, it was too big, it was too this, and so I quit. And so feeling that there's eventually going to be a time where you're either too challenged or you're going to quit is something that is kind of in the back of the mind of some of my players. Even if they want to play or they want to be a musician, they have that like kind of undertone playing in their head. And the other thing is that they can't do a specific song because it has like an E chord and a B minor chord or something like that. they see that song and they just turn away from it. They're like, no, I can't do that. And so that's another challenge that we've been trying to work through with the community.
Well, I can tell you that that the imposter syndrome is, I think a lot of people have that. I know for myself, when I was first starting off with this podcast, I felt that all the time. And the mantra I had was, fake it till you make it kind of thing, and pretend. So we pretended we were a big deal. This is, we've been doing this for years, right, Doug? And eventually it did turn into years.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, no, that's a really great point to bring up. So the imposter syndrome. So
Andy Andrews had a quote that I go back to every now and then, that I want to be good enough that even the worst people think that they can play with me. So like one of my big things has always been that I figured out that I'd like to lead groups, and playing with people is my favorite thing to do. And so the idea that I don't go out and do a spoken intro to every song, but that I play at a level where I feel like I am as good as I need to be, and there are certainly some other folks in our club that are way better than me. But at the end of the day, that's awesome, because that's what they're there to do, and I'm here to do what I do. But imposter syndrome is that is such a real thing that
Doug with the
turn off phone.
All right, Doug, is that okay? That is another great effect you have on. Is that a fox, a cat? What is that supposed to be?
I think it's a rabbit.
Rabbit. I don't know what rabbit. I was feeling squirrely before, but
squirrel.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I don't see any effects there, but yeah, and it's one of those things where I think too, of that having that feeling like everybody's welcome and everybody's one of the great things about is, so over the pandemic I've been doing a bunch of online clubs from all around the world, which has been just fantastic, and especially the Pandemic Pluckers in London. They're
such a great name.
So wonderful, and just a terrific group of people. By the way,
yes.
If you have time today, my sister Danny is doing her Ukesicle, where she's got a songbook full of musical songs that, and I will put a link to that in both the chat and the show notes. But one of the great things is that, because of the limitations of Zoom, it's one person leading and everybody else following along, which is not the greatest, but
right.
So many people were able to get over feeling like they weren't good enough to lead a song. And so many people, and the amount of growth that I've seen in just players from all across the world this last year has been just fantastic.
Yeah. Well, that is one thing, there's not that many good things. Well, I think there are a lot of things that are very difficult things that have happened. And there are just as many great things that have been coming out of the pandemic. Not to say that we want to do this again. Like, I would definitely do a hard pass on that. However, I think the international, just from what I've heard from you, Doug, just how many people you've connected with over these sing-alongs and internet things too. It sounds like Bernadette, you've had quite a international audience too. South America seems like I didn't know. Argentina, I didn't even think of that, but that makes sense. And Peru and all those other Latin American countries. Wow.
Yeah, the ukulele is blowing up in the Spanish-speaking world. It's huge.
Is it really? Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, do you have some Mexican heritage? You mentioned the
dress. Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of those things that I tried to start a Spanish YouTube channel for ukulele, and then I realized that like, oh, I went to music school in English, and all of the terminology I learned in English. So
This
I
is
was like,
English.
oh, I don't know how to say any of this in Spanish. So although I can talk with any Mexican about just regular topics, just
Right.
specific terminology, I realized I didn't know in Spanish. So
Although,
it is one
this.
of those.
Go ahead.
It's one of the things I'd like to do eventually, is to just expose myself to Spanish channels so that I can learn how they say things.
Although, here's the thing about music. A lot of the music terminology actually comes from Europe.
Mhm. Mhm.
Formata and forte and all that. That is not
Yeah.
English. So I don't know if
Yeah.
they
It's
actually.
Latin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like even just fret, a fret
Okay.
is
Yeah,
traste, and to me, traste is like a plate.
yeah.
So it's just there's such weird terms to
Okay.
me. And like
That.
neck is not cuello, like neck. It has a
Oh,
different name. So I was just like, oh, I need to learn all of these
really? That
before
okay.
yeah.
Now that is
Yeah.
weird because the ukulele neck is called the neck because it was like it's like
Mhm.
the head, which is the
Yeah.
headstock, and then the
Mhm.
neck, and then the
Right.
body. But
Right.
but
Yeah, no, it's different.
okay,
It's
wow, wouldn't have
different.
thought of
Yeah.
that.
Any Spanish speakers, if you know the name of the neck in ukulele in Spanish, let
What
me
is
know.
it?
Even the chords are different. Like they
Oh,
use
really?
the solfege instead of the C D E minor kind of thing.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and minor is called sostenido, which almost sounds like sustained or suspended for
Hmm.
me. So it's really different. So I got intimidated and I didn't do it, but I need to get over that.
Okay. Well, you never know. Yeah. So,
Mhm.
wow. Okay. So, sounds like the Spanish speaking world is the next, or maybe South America, Latin America
Mhm.
is where it's going to explode next. I don't know. That's I.
Yeah, I think it's pretty big.
Huh, awesome. Well, the ukulele festival, um, the 51st one, they had
Mhm.
several Latin American groups playing. Did you watch that? Any of that?
Oh,
It
the
was a lot of
Hawaiian one,
fun.
right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
The Ukulele Festival of Hawaii, which our good friends Sarah and Craig were
Oh yeah,
hosting.
yeah.
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 So
I saw them
yeah.
perform at the one here in Torrance, the LA International
Oh,
Ukulele Festival.
awesome.
But I've never like been one-on-one with them, but I saw them perform. I thought they were amazing.
Well, if yeah, unfortunately or fortunately for them, they moved back to Hawaii. They were down in
Mhm.
San Diego for a while, but there's still a lot
Yeah.
of awesome ukulele players out there
Mhm.
that you can network with.
Mm.
Our good friend Victoria Vox, she is awesome. She's out there.
Oh yes. Oh
Such
yes.
a
Love Victoria.
amazing voice.
Mhm.
Lucy LaForge is out there. Doug, help me out.
Yep, you're
Doug.
doing a great job.
Yeah. Well, Terry
Thanks.
Carter is in San Diego as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes, Terry's out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Of
And I'm
course,
about an hour and a half away from San Diego, so not too far.
not too far. Daniel Ho is out there. He's an amazing player.
Yeah.
Um, who else? Anyway, yeah, lots of great players out there. So,
Mhm.
um, let's see, what else did I have on my list? Let's get back to this. Oh yeah, so what did your experience teaching overseas? First of all, that's kind of interesting that you went and taught overseas in Okinawa. Was that like
Yeah.
English as a second language kind of thing?
It was an English immersion school. And so I went to school. I got accepted at Cal Poly Pomona University here for animal science because I was going to be a veterinarian.
Oh
And the
wow.
summer right before I took off to Cal Poly, I worked in a pet shop / veterinary business, and I hated it. The animals were in cages. They were
Hey,
sick.
good. Oh,
People couldn't afford care for their animals. I
oh,
came home crying all the time. I thought,
oh,
whoa, this
wow.
is not how I want to feel with a career that I've chosen. So I was like, well, I guess music makes me happy. So I'll pursue a career in that. But it was very like, we'll see. And I thought, you know what? I just need a degree in something and that'll help me get a job. So I like that music is really diverse. And so I went to Cal Poly and they were like, okay, what's your emphasis going to be? And I was like, my what? just music. And they're like, no, you have to choose like industry studies, performance. And I was like, well, which has the most classes? And then if I want to choose a different way, at least I've double dipped. And they said education. I was like, perfect, sign me up for education. Then if I choose something else later on, then I'll go there. And I came from like a small town, and my parents were really, 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 like they did not have a lot of money growing up. Like when I was growing up, they made maybe $12,500 a year when I was growing up. So it was really, really, really tight. And I dreamed of like traveling, but I thought it was something that wealthy people did. Another thing that I thought only wealthy people did was get the newspaper delivered, because I saw houses would get the newspaper delivered. So in my mind, I thought like, if I ever work at the newspaper, I'll be rich. And so, because I thought like, oh, that's where rich people are. So traveling was one of those things that I thought like, that's like what wealthy people do. And so I was going to Cal Poly. I had decided on music ed, and then the summers I'd come back home. And there was a job opening at the local newspaper. And I was like, oh, I'm going to make my childhood dreams come true. And so I knew at this point, that's not where rich people worked, but I just wanted to do it just to kind of like nod at my childhood and be like, you did it, girl, you did it. So I worked there for a summer selling ads on the newspaper. And because my uncle owned a business, an air conditioning business down in Calexico, one of the cities in the cluster of cities where I'm from, people were really welcoming. They're like, oh yeah, your uncle takes care of our AC. What do you need? I'm like, I'm selling an ad. Can you buy one? They're like, oh, no. Okay, well, fine. And so I made $2,000 that summer. Wow. And I didn't know what to do with it. So I just like let it sit in the bank. And then after I went back to school for I think it was like my senior year or something like that. And at near the end of the term or the school year, I saw I was working, by the way, at the Cal Poly Post, the newspaper at my university. Since I had newspaper experience, I got a job there. And I was working for housing so that I wouldn't have to pay housing. And so, I was getting scholarships because my parents could not help me at all. Like there was no way they could help me. So I had to find a way to pay for my education somehow. So I was working for housing for free room and board. I had a roof over my head and 2 meals a day. And then with the newspaper, I had a little bit of an income. And then I worked in the student government. So that paid for my parking. So I had everything covered.
Nice.
Yes, I had everything covered. And so as I was working in the newspaper at Cal Poly, I saw there was a ad saying, oh, like study abroad. And it cost $2,000. And I was like, who's got $2,000? I do. So I was like, I'm going to make another childhood dream come true. And so I studied in Spain for that semester. And like I had friends and family give me like $20 and $50 so that I could have money to eat. And so after that, I was like, I have to continue traveling. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I have to do it. Like my brain just exploded and I loved it. I loved meeting other people, and going to Spain, I got to use my Spanish a lot more. And I found that I was developing it in a different way, in a more academic way. And so I continued working at the newspaper. I continued going to school, even though I had already graduated at this point. I was going back for my credentials so I could teach. And I saw an ad that next year that said teach in China for free. And I was like, for free? What? And so I saw that it was in exchange for teaching all day. They covered your flights and your hotel and your meals. And I was like, all right. And so I was telling my parents, like, okay, I'm going to travel again this year. And my dad's like, okay, go anywhere but China. And I was like, oh, I'm going to China. And I was like, why? He's like, it's just their government is volatile. Like, you just don't know. It's not very safe. I'm like, okay, I'll tell them when I come back. No, wait, I'll tell them once I'm there, because it's not like he's going to go chase me in China. And so I called them from China. I'm like, hey, I'm in China. I'm teaching. And they freaked out. I'm an only child. So they were like, what? No. And so after teaching out there and teaching in China, I fell in love with the culture, and they fell in love with it through me. And so I continued going to China every year because it was free in exchange for experience, but I was getting so much experience, and I thought, this is amazing. So I graduated with my credential, or I received my credential, and I looked at the curriculum for the master's degree, and I saw Well, first, if I had gone with my bachelor's and my credential and started working, I would start earning 35,000, and I was like, that's not gonna pay for my student loans because I had accumulated some. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, what happens if I get a master's degree? And I saw that the starting salary was 55,000. And I was like, well, that's pretty good jump. So I looked at the curriculum and I noticed that a lot of the credential courses double dip into the master's, and that I only needed to do 3 more quarters 1 year. And I was like,
wow.
Well, if I can get housing again and free parking and continue my job at the Poly Post, then it doesn't cost much to get the master's. So I stayed and did the master's. And then I landed the dream job here in Imperial Valley, close to my family. And it was the district that like everybody who lived here wanted to retire out of. People would teach in nearby schools and interview and apply every year until they got there. They knew that as long as they could retire from there, they'd have a pretty good pension because or retirement, because it was the best paying district. And even though the community here is on the lower socioeconomic status, that is one of the top 25 schools in the nation because they recruit the best teachers. I got a job there. I got a job there as like a fresh out of college kid. And it was the perfect job. I loved it. I had the biggest band room out of any of my friends, and I changed the chorus class into a ukulele elective.
Hey, good on you.
And the kids loved it. And in the ukulele elective, I was finding people that I was like, wait, you should be in band. You should be in band. You should be in band. So I was recruiting people and I was growing the band program.
Wow. It
was amazing. And at the end of the year, I was like, wait a second. Like, this is really cool. And my mentor teacher was the best. She had been asked to mentor me, and she said no. And the principal said, yeah, I really want you to mentor this teacher. She's really promising, but she has no experience and she really needs someone good to take her under their wing. And she's like, I'm done mentoring. I'm done. It's too much work. It's not worth the extra pay. I'm not going to do it. And he's like, just meet her and don't even tell her I'm considering you as the mentor, and then tell me afterward. And she's like, well, it's already going to be a no. And so I walk into the teacher's lounge and I'm like, and I'm going to walk out because I'm an introvert. I'm like, I saw a crowd. I panicked. And she's like, wait, come here. And I was like, hi. And she's like, what do you need? I'm like, I don't know where my teacher cubby is, like the mailbox. And she's like, it's right here. I was like, thank you. I was scared of walking into a room with all these strangers. And she's like, hi, I'm your mentor teacher, Jessica. I'm like, hi. And so I was so excited. Like, hi, nice to meet you. I had no idea she'd been saying no. And then I walk over to the principal's office and I'm like, hey, I met my mentor teacher. And he's like, you did? Who? And I was like, Jessica. He's like, yeah. And so he was really excited. And it was a great year. And at the end of the year, and I had finished all of the training that I needed to do, and my credential was set because I needed to teach under her wing before my credential was going to be set for life. And she said, now you're set for life. You can do this until you retire. And that scared me to death. I was like, wait, this was a great year, but I don't want it. What? And I was like, oh no, like this is not what I want for life. And I thought, oh, that's not good. And so I sat at the table with my parents that day and I was like, hey, I won't be here this time next year. I need to find a new job. And they were like, are you crazy? Like, this is the perfect job. Why would you leave? I'm like, it's just, this is not what I want forever. Like, I loved it, but there's something else. I need something else. And this is not it. And they were like, just think about it. Like, just think about it, because this is a great job, a great community. You love everything about it. I'm like, I know, but it's not, I know it's not where my story ends here. Like, I need something else. And so I started looking on Buku, which is the Japanese Craigslist. And I saw music teacher position. And I was like, that's me. I know that's me. And so I sent him a message. I sent him my resume. And then I was ending the school year here and in Imperial. And on the last day of school, I thought it would be so cool to record just myself teaching the kids. And they were bouncing off the walls and everything because it's the last day of school. They're all sitting in their own clusters. And I was like, guys, let's play a song together before the year ends. I'm going to record it. If you don't want to be on camera, just sit on this side. They all wanted to be in the camera. And it was just for me to keep in my laptop. And I said, if you don't want to appear in the video, that's totally fine. You don't have to sit on that side. We also had student release forms, and we knew which students should not be recorded just out of safety, and none of those kids were in.
Right.
And so we recorded a song, and they were like, yeah, Miss B, and they were so excited. And so the school year ended, and I started interviewing for this Okinawa position at this English immersion school. And then they said the requirements, your resume, a teaching certificate, which is the same as the credential, at least a year of experience, teaching your subject in English. I was like, I got that. And then they said, and you got to submit a video of yourself teaching. And I was like, uh-oh. The only one I have is of the last day of school, and the kids were crazy. And I was like, oh no. So I sent that video. I'm like, we'll see. They called me back. They said they loved it. They said it was the only video where the kids weren't told to look like robots. And I was like, well, that's because they had no idea that I needed an interview or to land this job. And so they said, okay, perfect. We're going to interview you on this day at this time. And I was like, great. Thank you. Can't wait. And so then I start packing all of my things. The school year has ended. The kids know that I'm not going to live there anymore in Imperial. And two of the girls came over to my house to give me some handwritten letters that they wrote and to say goodbye, give me a hug. And then my Skype starts ringing. And mind you, I've got no makeup on. I got a tank top on, like showing shoulders. And I'm sweaty, and I'm in my home is in boxes. And I answer, and it's a panel of Japanese and foreigners all dressed in suits. And they're like, this is your interview. And I was like, no, it's not. It's on this day at this time. They're like, that's the time here. And I was like, oh, time difference. Whoops. And I was like, yes, I'm ready. And they're like, one of them was like, you don't look like your picture. And I was like, you know what? Just shut up. And so the interview started, and they could hear kids in the background. They're like, are those your kids in the background? I was like, yeah, they're my students. They're like, your students are in your house? And I was like, wow, I must look so unprofessional. I was like, yeah, they're coming to say goodbye. They're like, can we talk to them? I was like, and so I called the girls over, and they're like, hi, like super friendly on Skype. And like, they're like, can you tell us about your teacher? And they're like, yeah. And they start talking about me. And it played to my advantage because that school was not a conventional Japanese school. They didn't want the students to do everything by the book, structured and efficient. They wanted kids to have critical thinking and to do their own, to express their own personalities. And so for that interview, I was the right fit. Wow. And they liked seeing that the students felt so close to me that they would come over to my house, because that's what they wanted. They wanted teachers who would develop really good relationships with their students. And so they offered me the job mostly because the kids were there. So it was just
what a great story.
It was fate. And so I moved to Okinawa. And the day after I arrived, I got a car. And the day after getting a car, I had to drive to the school.
On the left side.
On the left side, right side of the car, left side of the road, and on the freeway, and going through the toll roads, and reading all the kanji characters. I didn't know anything. I went the wrong way. Thank goodness. When I was at Cal Poly, one of my professors said, you leave for your interview for a job 3 hours before. Like, I don't care where you're at. 3 hours is what you need. And so I was like, all right, I'm leaving at 5 a.m. And it worked out. I'm so grateful to that professor, because I made it there on time, because I got lost on Okinawa Island, but made it to my interview. And so I got hired, and I started learning Japanese and fell in love with Okinawa and the culture, and started teaching ukulele there.
Wow. Again, we can just end this podcast on that story. So no, that's amazing. Yeah, it's just so much to unpack there. Well, I wonder, just off the top of my head, Okinawa is different from the rest of Japan. So
Right.
I wonder if that's why they were looking for someone different. And
Yeah, I think
that
so.
just you just played right into it. Just wow,
Mhm.
everything, the someone said golden threads that just kind of
Mhm.
come together and
Right.
stitch it all together.
Mhm.
That's just amazing.
Mhm.
The only thing we're missing from this podcast is a good title. I don't know, Doug. Can you come up with something silly? And because otherwise, this has been amazing.
It
Doug's
has been
off.
amazing. It's
Well,
well,
thank
and
you.
normally I have got all kinds of comments and jokes and whatever, and I've been just enraptured with
Right.
listening to you tell these stories. It's been fantastic.
Yeah. Maybe you could write your ukulele story too. That'll be your next chapter. On how you got. Well, I mean, there's great lessons to be learned there too. If I
Mhm.
thought about it more, I could probably mention them. But just that you roll with it.
Mhm.
You are who you are, and
Mhm.
that's really in the end what they were looking for. And if you had tried to do something different, it
Right.
probably wouldn't have worked out as well. Like,
Mm-mm.
oh, let's just have like everyone else probably did, have this robotic.
Yeah.
Okay, kids,
Yeah.
you go and do
Mhm.
this, and
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
and they probably would have gone, nah, not really. So it just worked
Mhm.
out. That's
It
amazing.
all worked out. And one of the people who was on the panel became one of my best friends when I moved out there. And he said that they could tell I was wild, and in the sense of like just crazy, like who would answer the Skype call, first of all. And he said that all the other interviews had been with Japanese people, and they
Oh,
had worn a suit and had a white background, and they were very professional, and the teaching was the kids all sitting correctly, and it was
right.
just a very structured lesson. Like, they were all very qualified for the position. It was really just that I was like, oh, whoops, all right, well, let's do this. And the kids were there, and it showed that I had a relationship with the kids.
Wow.
And it was just, I don't know, they say luck is when opportunity meets preparation. And so I think it
Absolutely.
was a lot of luck.
Well, and just saying yes. That's the other part
Yeah.
about it, is when you
Hmm.
have that opportunities, just say yes. And
Hmm.
obviously answering the Skype call was yes.
Yeah,
There you go.
definitely.
Wow.
Hmm.
See, glad I asked that question.
Thank you. And I want to say thank you to everyone who's on the chat right now here supporting, because I let them know that I felt a little nervous, and like I was shaking in the beginning. I was like, keep the hands down. And they're all here. So thank you.
You're nervous on the OokTown podcast.
On the
You've
OokTown
never
podcast.
you obviously have never seen this show before.
I just felt well, again, that imposter syndrome. Like, why would they interview me? Like, I'm like a non-guest. So, like, I just felt like, okay, they're gonna start interviewing me, and they're gonna find out, like, why did we invite her? And then, like, that was like
Oh,
playing in my head. Like,
wow.
they're gonna think, like, why did we invite her?
Interesting.
Like, this person is not a ukulele player. So I was like,
It is, well, that's why we talk about all things ukulele, because we go on a lot of tangents, and really the core of the ukulele is the
Is
way
wood.
it
Wood
the
is
wood.
the core of ukuleles.
Okay, thank you, Doug. I think you got it.
Oh, I like your T-shirt, Doug. I hadn't seen it because that's
Oh yeah,
what your
isn't that
label
great?
is.
The GCEA.
I love it. That's so cool.
All right, Doug, I think you pulled this one out. All right, but yeah, the just how the ukulele it's so friendly, brings everyone together,
Mhm.
and we have that in common. That really, to me, is what the show is about. And we talk about all kinds of things, and we're not a show of, although we love having people play, and I've been asked to have more of that on our show. There are so many great shows and podcasts out there where they're just doing these, amazing. I've seen you play with your group.
Mhm.
You did the code play, I think, recently.
Yeah.
They have all of that. So good on them.
Yeah.
We're not trying to
Yeah.
compete with that. We're just trying to find our place here, a little niche that we've been doing,
Yeah.
regardless for a long time.
And I want to give a quick shout out to Richard Estes. I don't know if Richard, you're still here, but he named our band because I asked my community to like help us name the band, and he said you should call it 2 Hits and a Miss. And so I'm
Nice.
Miss D, right?
All right.
And so that's where the name came from.
All right. Well, shout out to him. Thank you so much. All right. So as a teacher and instructor, so what are some of the kind of most satisfying things that you've seen when you're as you're teaching your students? And that can be in Okinawa too, because you taught ukulele over there too, right? That's awesome. And they love ukulele in Japan, by the way. It's just so weird to me, but I think it's just well, first of all, the Hawaiian language. Well, it's interesting. The Hawaiian language, Spanish, and Japanese, all phonetically are so similar. Did you ever notice that?
Oh yeah, I definitely noticed it. And when I was out there in Okinawa, I learned how to write hiragana and katakana. And so because phonetically the languages sound so similar, I wrote out Guantanamera, the really popular Spanish song in katakana.
Yeah.
And so I had all these Japanese kids who were like, oh, Guantanamera! And so they could sing it because they could read it. And so we played that song out there. And so for our concert, I was like, we will have a trilingual concert. It's going to be in English and in Japanese and in Spanish. And so all the parents, because it was a private school, they were like, oh, yes, this is so cultured. And I was like, and the kids have no idea what they're saying. But, but yeah, because the phonetics are so similar, it really made for an easy transition for that song for the kids.
And so I don't know if you have done any Hawaiian songs, but I bet you if you haven't, you should, because they're again very similar, to Spanish. Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So getting back to my question, what kind of stories do you have about the students, that maybe kind of goes to the core of what the ukulele is and what's so great about it?
I think that like the ukulele is the best gateway drug into music, because I've met people that say like, oh, I'm not a musician, and I believe that everyone is a musician. They just haven't discovered the ukulele yet. And so
there you go.
When parents would come into my classroom, I would hand them a ukulele, and I was like, just squeeze here on the 3rd fret of this, and yeah, just squeeze and not do this, and they'd hear the C chord, they'd be like, oh, sounds so good. Like, oh my goodness, can I buy one of these for my kid? And so
nice.
Got you.
Oh, you should work in you got to work in a music store there. You'd do great.
That's another one of those little things, like kind of like working with the newspaper. I'm working at a ukulele shop or a music store is one of those things that I'd like to do at some point.
Oh, you can can definitely.
It's in there. Like, it's just one of those things that I hope to do at some point. So when I started teaching in Japan, the school had been like, oh yeah, all our kids, they're immersion kids. So through this school, they learned to become fluent in English, and I was like, right on. And so I was going to be teaching 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. So on my first day, I have the kids. At this point, I don't have ukuleles in the classroom yet, because 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade used playback music, and they would sing over it. And they told me the kids know these songs, so you just need to push play. And as you start developing your Japanese, you'll be able to teach a little bit more. But if not, it's okay. We want English, English, English. And I was like, okay. And so the first day of school comes around, and I've got the 1st graders, and the teacher, the homeroom teacher, would hand the kids off and then run away and get their break. So the teacher comes and brings me these like short, teeny tiny children, because I've been teaching in California, and my students were mostly Mexican and white, and they were tall because they were in middle school. It was my height. And so now I've got these little pieces of humans that are just coming over to my classroom in these cute uniforms, and like, oh my goodness, I was like, they're so cute. Oh my gosh, they look like cartoons. And so the teacher's like, bye, and leaves. And I was like, okay, all right, so we're gonna come in 3 at a time. Because I had learned that, if you bring your students in 3 at a time, you get to make sure that they know where to sit, and they're not going to be loud. If you have the whole class come in, it's going to be chaos.
Oh, wow. That's a great tip.
The classroom and the door, bring in 3, make sure they sit down, make eye contact. They know I am watching them. Uncomfortable silence. And then the next 3 come in. And so I said, we're going to come in 3 at a time. Okay, so the first 3 come in and they're all like this.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. All right. I didn't know that kindergarten wasn't a thing in Japan. So first grade was literally their first day of school. And immersion happens at the school. So they didn't know any English. I didn't know that.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know any Japanese. So
wow.
I had heard that good morning was Ohayo gozaimasu. And I was like, there's no way that's that long. No, I'm going to learn it at school. I hadn't studied. So I'm like, okay, let me see. I'll just kind of grab the kid and show them where to sit. And so I was grabbing one by one at this point, and they didn't know where to sit. So I had to go in and like sit them down. Like, I'm like, I'm touching all these children. This is like not going well so far. Day one, should not touch your children. So I'm like grabbing them by the shoulders, like, okay, yeah, sit down. Okay, sweet. And I'm coming back outside. And then one girl comes out of the line and like pulls on my shirt and she says something to me. And I was like, I don't know what she's saying. And she's like pulling on my shirt and she's like got these big old eyes and she's like telling me something. I'm like, no, go back. Go back. So she lines up again. I bring in 3 more kids and now she's at the front. And now there's a puddle under her. And
I was going to say, it was that.
Yeah. Oh, that one. Like, no.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought like the restrooms are kind of far away because the music room was separate from everything, so it wouldn't be loud because it was an indoor school. And now she needed to change because her clothes were wet.
Oh,
and so I just looked down the line and I was like, does anybody understand the words coming out of my mouth right now? And I see one little shy hand like up in the back, and I was like, "Do you understand me?" And she's like, "I'm like, please come here." And so I was like, "What is your name?" And she's like, "Mommy." I'm like, "What?" Because for Mexicans, mommy is like sweet girl or sweet child. Like you say mommy to, like you say that. I say that to my daughter. I say that to my kitty. It's like Chan in Japanese. So it's like she just told me my name is Chan. I'm like, what? I'm like, no, that's besides the point. Can you take, what is your name? Her name is Tomo. I'm like, okay, can you take Tomo back to the classroom to change? And she's like, I'm like, oh,
wow, gold star already.
I hope they make it back. And so I'm like watching them walk away. They're going in the right direction. I'm like, all right. And I've got these kids inside that are sitting quietly because they're scared of me. And I've got these kids outside that are waiting. Like they just saw this all happen. I'm like, okay, go inside. I'm like watching the other kids. And I don't realize, like I'm telling this kid to walk over the puddle. So I just hear, Senno. And like he jumps over the pool of pee to go into the classroom. I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? This is crazy. So I moved all the kids. I bring them all. I was like, forget the 3x3. Just everybody go inside. Just sit down.
I was gonna say for Japanese kids, they were probably just fine. They'd be so quiet.
Yes, they were fine. And I was so embarrassed. And then the teacher comes with like the being dry.
They should have at least given you one word, and all you would have needed is dozo, because all you would have gone goes point to the seat and go dozo, and they would have gone, okay, I get it.
Yes.
And that's so easy.
And I can't believe I didn't understand toilet. Toilet.
Toilet.
No. I think I was just panicking. I was first and they didn't know anything.
Wow.
So yes, Tomo, and I was so afraid that that event would mark her life, because for so many people, something like that, marks your elementary experience. Like, you're the baby kid. Oh. But Tomo ended up to be one of the most talented musicians in my classes.
See, I knew there was a point to this. That is awesome.
Oh my goodness, Tomo was so talented, and she could play ukulele, she could sing, she could play piano, she could play sanjin, which is the local instrument. And I leaned on her a lot, and her English developed, my Japanese developed, and so I just love that our relationship really grew, and that out of adversity. This was my Okinawa experience. Like, I just decided, you know what? I don't know everything. I don't know anything. And I need to lean on the kids a lot. And so the kids started learning all of the Japanese songs, because I said, I can't read this, but you can. So teach me. And so they would teach me the Japanese songs. And so when it came time for the concert and the recital, the teachers were like, how is she teaching the Japanese songs? Like, how does she know? Like, and then they'd come and do the really formal bow, and they'd say like, oh, arigato sensei, I did not think my child was going to learn the Japanese culture songs because you were Mexican. Mexico. And I was like, oh, I don't know if that's a compliment, but thanks. And so they said, like, but we're really grateful that you're teaching these Japanese culture songs and that my child is getting to learn and sing these with us at home.
Yeah.
And so that was a really, really positive experience. And I didn't like that the kids played with playback. I thought that the kids showed a lot of ability. And in my opinion, they showed as much ability as the middle schoolers that I've been teaching band to. And so I asked the school for some ukuleles, and they gave them to me because it was a private school and they had funding.
Nice.
And so they said half a class set, and we started with 15. And by the end, every kid had a ukulele. We had multiple ukuleles. We got baritone ukuleles and even guitars so they could transition.
Wow.
And I don't know if you've heard of Kiroro. She's a Japanese singer, but her daughter went to the school and was one of my students. Like, imagine the Sure of, like, you know, do you believe in life after love? The Sure of Japan. Her kid was in my school and one of my students. So she made a really generous donation to the music program after seeing the kids perform. And that we were able to buy all these instruments with her donation. And I think it was just really cool to see the whole music program out there develop and all of the kids really take to it. And just learning Japanese with the kids.
I didn't know how you were going to get there because you started off with a puddle of pee, and where you ended up is amazing. So that
puddle of pee on my first day of teaching.
Great. Yeah, those are you definitely can write a book about this.
Thank you. And by the way, the kid that jumped over the pee, he said, "Say no." It's like he was ready, go. So he like say no and just jumped. I was like, oh my God.
Man, that's great. Awesome. Gosh, I don't know. I want to ask a question where you can tell another great story.
I think I'm all out.
Oh, I don't think so. What is your dream ukulele? By the way, wait a minute. Do you have an ukulele of your own, like a Bernadette? Because I thought I saw that. Is that right? You want to? You do?
Yeah. Right
okay.
Here.
But you can either bring it or where can they get one? Is that like one of those where you can buy one?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Bring it over.
By the way, I'm wearing pants.
Yay, pants!
Yay for pants! Did you make that mistake once and go on the stream?
It's just, even if I wear a dress, I wear pants, and I've told this to the people who watch the live stream. That's why the pants emojis were coming up throughout the chat, because I said, like, you know, when you're online, one of my biggest fears is that I'll end a live stream but forget to hit end, and then I walk away everywhere and like have a emoji or something. It's one of my fears, so I always wear pants even if I'm wearing a dress. So yeah, so we're the pants squad. Okay, so I don't even know how many years ago I went through. So I had gotten married. I got married to this person that I met from Cal Poly days, and we were really great friends back then. And then we started dating, and our marriage was kind of rushed because he was going to have to move for work. And so I didn't like the rushing the marriage part, but we did this like 5 or 6 hour drive where it was a marital psychologist wrote an article with like 69 questions to ask before you marry someone. Mm-hmm. And I talked about finances and kids and childhood trauma and trauma from your parents' marriages or relationships. And it was just a really in-depth experience. And in that car ride, we had both said that we wanted children, multiple children, and to eventually settle down in California close to family. And as the marriage developed over the years, I had asked like about having children, and he had kept saying like, no, not ready yet, or let's wait some years. And so eventually I started noticing he really didn't want children anymore. And so I think he just changed in what he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I told my dad, like, what happened. Once I knew it wasn't going to happen, I knew that I knew I was going to be a mom. And so I was like, this guy doesn't want to be a dad. So this is not adding up. And so I called my dad and I told him, and he's like, no, you need to talk to him. You need to talk to him. Like, you can't just leave. Like, what are you going to do? We don't believe in divorce in this family or whatever. And I was like, Dad, like, we've talked about this for years and years, and he doesn't want children. And so my dad and I hung up, and he called me like 20 minutes later. He said, wait, no, if somebody doesn't want to be a dad, they shouldn't be convinced into it because it's a huge commitment. So he's like, come home. And so I came home, and I just felt like, wow, how did that end up happening to me? Like, everything that I've done so far just always seemed to lead into the next thing. Like, this doesn't add up. Like, what happened? Am I making a mistake? Like, am I making the wrong choice? Like, divorce is not something that I would do. And we were coming up on 5 years of marriage at that point. And I didn't even see it coming. I never saw him saying, you know what, it's never going to happen. I thought eventually at one point he would say, like, I'm ready. And the reason it ended so abruptly is because one of my mom's coworkers went through a divorce, and my mom told me her story. My mom had no idea, by the way, that I was going through what I was going through with a partner, thinking about not having children. She was just like, hey, yeah, Val, like, she's going through a divorce. And she said her biggest regret is that, like, you know, she's 65 now, and she stayed with Danny thinking that was going to be her forever person. And he left her for someone else, and she never had kids. And I was like, that's going to be me. And so that's when I asked straight up, like, is this ever going to happen? And he said, I don't think so. No. And I was like, well, I appreciate the honesty. I don't appreciate the years lost, but I got to go. And so thankfully we ended on really good terms. His family, and they didn't understand him, but they understood me, which I really appreciated because I didn't want to, like, end badly with them. And so I came back home, and that's when I made the 30-day Uke challenge that I didn't like, the second one. Like, I was just not in a good place mentally. And I came back home. I live in a really hot area. Like, today in the morning, it was 88 degrees, and that's the coldest it's been in months. So I was like, oh, let's hang out outside. It's always over 100 degrees already in the morning. It reaches 110, 111, 112 during the day.
Like, are you in Central California?
Yeah.
You must be in Centro, yeah.
Yeah, Centro, California. And so it's really hot out here.
Ouch.
I started noticing like the plants that survive out here, and a lot of them are cactuses, of course. But there was one flower that just stood out to me because it just, like, was so vibrant and beautiful, and it just flowered in the desert. And I thought, like, man, that's a resilient flower. And I started traveling because one of my friends, Maria, who's a Portuguese person living in Spain, said, like, you're going to get depressed if you go back home. Your parents are going to be looking at you with puppy dog eyes. Like, you need to come to Spain. You need to get out. You need to be traveling. And so I went out to see her shortly after the divorce, and I started traveling, and it was a really good idea. And I started noticing that same flower in, like, different parts of Europe. And then I started traveling here in the States, and I was just noticing it was everywhere. It could be in any kind of temperature, and it was flowering like this bright flower. It's the Bougainvillea. And so I thought, like, that's a beautiful, like, inspiration for a ukulele, the Bougainvillea, because it flowers anywhere, and it's bright, and it's, like, there, and then you could chop it down and it'll come back. And I was like, that's gonna be my motto for the year, to be bright and to flower anywhere, even in the desert. And so I talked to Enya about making a Bougainvillea ukulele, and so I wanted a vibrant color, and they said, no, we don't do those colors. We do blue and we do wood tones. I'm like, but I really want this color, and I want it on the fretboard. And so they did a inlay of the Bougainvillea flower, and they managed to get that really bright color on the wood as well.
So now you have your own Bougainvillea ukulele.
Exactly. So I really like it. It's a really beautiful ukulele, and I didn't promote it on the channel, really, because it feels a little tacky to be like, go buy my uke, but
That's okay. You can do that on our channel.
Well,
See?
yes, indeed. There is a link to the Amazon site where you can get that. Thing number two. My latest uke is I
Nova.
love this thing. Oh,
Mhm.
it makes me so happy. And then thing number three, in El Centro, you have a In-N-Out burger, and that is awesome.
Yeah.
There is a link to the map of there, and you can see how to get to the In-N-Out burger, which we've now got 3 of those in
I
Colorado.
know.
I'm very excited about
We
that.
have
Whoa.
3 In-N-Out burgers in Colorado, which is incredible.
Whoa.
They do not do that very often.
No, they don't. They don't.
They have I watched the whole YouTube. This is why YouTube is amazing. I watched the whole YouTube on the In-N-Out burger and how they, how their whole
Their motto.
and how they do business. I was really impressed, actually.
Yeah.
So there you go. I could ask any question and you have an amazing story. So there you go.
And I also have tips for how to raise your Bougainvillea plant.
Bougainvillea?
If you wanted to plant one, I've got links to that in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
And I'm familiar with Bougainvillea because we have them in Hawaii all over the place. I don't know who brought them over, but it's a very hardy plant, and it does have some thorns, I believe, because I seem to recall having to trim them or something around our house.
It's got thorns, so don't mess with it.
Don't mess with the Bougainvillea.
No. And then I do have another signature uke. I don't have it on me because I gave away most of the ones that Flight gave me, but Flight collaborated with me on a travel uke, and it was when I was out in Japan, and I was like, we've got to make a cherry blossom uke. They're like, cool, because they really like the whole Japanese design and style. And I was like, but I don't want it to be pink. And they're like, what? And so it's a dark blue ukulele. Of course, it has a pink flowers, but it's a dark blue ukulele. It's kind of like what the sky looks like right before sunrise. So kind of like an ombre look to it. So yeah, I've got those 2 ukuleles. So I guess my theme is flowers, and I don't know when I'll have another signature ukulele. It's just when inspiration strikes.
Well, I don't know. I think Kala should contact you. They can. And you can have, they could, they sponsor so many great ukulele players and teachers. Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to wrap this up. What else did you want to promote? Anything?
No, I just want to say thank you to everyone here on the chat. I really appreciate you coming through. I know for some of you, like the time is really not the best. Like it's bedtime for some of you, or like really early. So I want to say thank you so much for being here and for just keeping the chat so lively. Because I was looking over and they were just making me smile. So I want to say thank you to everyone there.
Awesome. Yeah, I noticed so many people. There's quite a few people on the live, watching us live. So we really appreciate all of the support, and obviously you have a lot of love for Bernadette, and that is awesome to see. Great.
So, I want to thank them all. And then this year's 30-day uke challenge is going to be chord melody. So starting September, it'll be 30 days of chord melody. So that's what we'll be working on.
Fantastic. A great idea too. I love chord melody, because what's been said over and over again is that if you don't like to sing necessarily, but you still love the ukulele, this is such a wonderful way to bridge that gap, Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, and everyone watching, if you can look up Stuart Yoshida yesterday, it's a beautiful chord melody cover. I think you will enjoy.
Oh, really? I didn't know it was out there.
Yeah, here on YouTube, it's really beautiful.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, thanks for that. Doug, what's happening with you? What's cracking, Doug?
Well, first of all, there's a link to Bernadette's Flight Ukulele. It's a beautiful ukulele. That's awesome. And then and also Stuart's YouTube is in the yesterday is in the show notes as well. So you can you don't have to go very far to find that. Let's see. The first and third Saturdays of every month, we do our meetings. Our third Saturday is now live in one of our members' backyards.
Yeah.
And, the harmonies that you get, so much fun.
Nice.
Makes me so happy. But we're going to continue with the first Saturday always being a online version, just so that all of our international friends that we've made we can still have a chance to hang out. But so much fun. Yay!
Wow. And that's really great that you're doing the live ones now in the backyard. Now you're one of the members, I think, is hosting them. That is awesome. Cool. Well, Bernadette, so great to have you on the show. Glad you accepted.
Thank you.
I know it took a little bit to. I didn't know how to get a hold of you. I don't usually go to the websites for. Actually, you have a page. Oh! By the way, Bernadette has a Patreon site, which is
Patreon members come with some orange hearts. The Patreon
is that wow? They even have their own emoji. That's awesome. But that's great. So we'll put a link. I'm sure Doug will find that, and we'll put a link.
That's already in there already.
Already in there, yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Patreon is such a great way to support people. And we have our own patreon.com/OokTown. So if anyone wants to support the show, that's been great. I mean, this is how I've been able to continue. It justifies my continued doing 10 years plus now of podcasts. Yay! With my co-host, Doug. All right. So as we do on the show, we're going to wrap this up. And on 3, let's all say aloha.
Okay.
Everybody ready? Look at Doug. Bernadette looks like she was born ready. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Aloha. Wow, that almost is in harmony. All right.
Oh, fantastic. Cool. See you guys later.
We'll see you. Thanks so much.